Hi, my name's Tom Nicholas. I'm an instructor in the intensive English program, and I'm going to talk about grammar and the way that we teach grammar at the different levels in the IEP. In IEP, there are 6 levels. At the lowest level, we're just trying to get students to understand what a basic sentence is. So as you probably know, a basic sentence in English has a subject, a verb, and an object. So for example, Joe ate a hamburger. Joe's the subject, ate's the verb, hamburger's the object. So we just work on simple sentences like that with low-level students and getting them to understand that. As they move up the levels, we want them to add more information into the sentence. So we look at different ways that they can add information. And when we do that, we're looking at different kinds of grammar structures. So for example, after they can make a simple sentence like Joe ate a hamburger, we might say, okay, let's give some more information about the hamburger. So there's these things called adjectives that you can put in front of a noun. You could say, Joe ate a delicious hamburger. There's these things called adverbs that you can put with a verb to add information about the verb. So you could say, Joe ate a delicious hamburger quickly. That's how he ate it. That's still a pretty simple sentence, so we can use a word called and to add even more information. And when you use and, you're using something called coordination. So you're taking two things that are the same, like 2 sentences or 2 adjectives or 2 verbs, and you're putting and in the middle. So you could say, maybe Joe didn't just eat a hamburger. Maybe Joe did 2 things. So you could say, Joe ate a hamburger quickly and then left the restaurant. So then you have 2 verb phrases. You're linking them together using and. That sounds kind of simple, but as you go up the levels, you find that that simple concept of coordination is really helpful. After students kind of understand how to use coordination, we can move into subordination. With subordination is a sentence where you have 2 parts, a main idea and then some kind of supporting idea for that. So the simplest one is using because. So you could say, Joe ate a hamburger quickly and then left the restaurant because he had an important meeting. And that because part is supporting the main idea and it's telling why Joe did that. As we move up the levels into like level 3 and 4, we'd start looking at other ways that you can add information to a sentence. So before I said that you could use an adjective to add information to a noun, but we have these other things called adjective clauses, which actually have a subject and a verb, so that kind of looks like a complete sentence. But you can put it after a noun and add a lot more complex information than you can just by using a simple adjective. So for example, you could make a sentence like, the man who had eaten too many hamburgers felt uncomfortable. So who had eaten too many hamburgers, that's called an adjective clause. And it's telling information about the man. So we know a lot more about the man by using that adjective clause than we would if we left it out and we just said, the man looked uncomfortable. As we get into like level 5, we talk about reducing adjective clauses. So you could just use a little kind of a noun phrase after a noun to describe the man. And this kind of sentence is used a lot in academic writing. And academic language is really the focus of the higher levels of our curriculum. So for example, you could make a sentence like, Thomas Perez, the Secretary of Labor, made an announcement. That little phrase, the Secretary of Labor, is explaining who Thomas Perez is. So that's a useful phrase. It's used a lot in textbooks and in newspaper articles. Another structure that we look a lot at in the higher levels is called a noun clause. Noun clause works just like a noun, but it has a subject and a verb. So it carries a lot more information than just a noun by itself. So in that sentence that I just gave about Thomas Perez, you could say, Thomas Perez, the U.S. Secretary of Labor, announced that the unemployment rate had dropped to 7%. So that part at the end of the sentence, that the unemployment rate had dropped to 7%, that's called a noun clause. Works just like a noun, but it has a subject and a verb, so it injects a lot more information into the sentence. So that's one way of thinking about how we deal with grammar is basically we're looking at how you can use different kinds of grammar structures to get a lot of information into the sentence. So the kinds of sentences that you're writing at the upper levels carry a lot more information.